All right, thanks for staying with us. Let's go to this conversation now. The Nelson Mandela Bay municipality has urged residents to boil water before consuming. Officials say the water may not be safe for drinking or cooking. In a statement released on Monday night, the municipality says its latest water quality test results revealed that water quality had deteriorated and certain microbiological limits were exceeded. Let's get behind this issue now with Professor Anthony Turton, an affiliated professor in the Centre for Environmental Management in the Free State University. Prof, good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. Would you say that this problem was a long time coming?
Afternoon to you, the listeners. Yes, indeed. The provision of water is a complex issue, and water security is a composite of 6 different factors. So let me just quickly go through those six factors. Water security is the guarantee of water at a given volume, at a given pressure, at a given price, at a given quality, at a given time, at a given place. So those are the 6 elements that make up water security. And if you're starting to compromise on your water quality, or indeed any one of those 6 elements, then you're starting to undermine your water security for your town, your city, your region, ultimately your country. So that's from a technical perspective, this has been understood for a long time. Lots of technical conversations have been had. They've generally not fallen on fertile ears when it comes to the decision making, because that is ultimately a political process.
I wonder how much of it also would you attribute to a lack of the maintenance of the systems?
Well, by definition, your government departments, particularly Department of Water and Sanitation, has been created in order to increase water security or provide water security to the country. That's the purpose of them being there, and they have to manage water in an environment where it flows around and it evaporates and it blows away in the wind. That's just what happens, and that's why they are supposed to manage it accordingly. But water is complex because water touches every single component of every human being's lives, and therefore it can be a municipal issue, it can be a national issue, it can be a provincial issue, it can be an economic issue, a health issue. So it falls under almost every single government department, and therefore because it's everywhere, it's also nowhere. Nobody really actually wants to take a responsibility for it, and ultimately the Department of at national level is responsible for developing the standards and the norms for water quality, amongst other things. And it has to regulate, and of course it's failed to do that. And that's why we're seeing these problems today, because you cannot be both a player and a referee in the same game.
And would you say, Prof, though, because they talk about, the drop in water quality being attributed to the low dam levels that we're seeing and the fluctuating reservoir levels, as well as they say that this has been happening in recent weeks. But has the municipality really been transferring water from the Gariep Dam as it should have been?
Well, let us just look at that fact that they put there on the table. Let's examine that. The simple fact of the matter is that as recently as the last 2 weeks, the South African dams have been 90% full in total, 90%. This is an unprecedented level of water in the country. I cannot recall in my life that we've had almost 100% full. The Gariep Dam has been over 100% full, and in fact the Orange system has been at over 100% capacity. And the Gariep Dam is the principal source of water for your coastal cities, Nelson Mandela Bay, for example. So the fact that the dams are empty, it doesn't really hold water. There might be local dams that are empty, but certainly they're not dams in the system that are empty. And that is why the Orange Fish Transfer system was developed in the 1960s in order to give water security to what was then known as Port Elizabeth and the Uitenhage Industrial Complex there. And that had to be maintained because that takes water from the Orange River, cascades it through the mountain into the Fish River, takes it out of the Fish River into the Sundays River, out of the Sundays River into the Gamtoos River, and ultimately onto the final destination. So it's a complex engineering system, but it's been in place since the 1960s, and it's worked extremely well until fairly recently. So maintenance is obviously a problem in that case.
And you alluded to, the political issues that could also be at play here that could be hampering, the delivery of basic services. I wonder, though, what is needed to ensure that those who are tasked, in fact, with the fact that they need to ensure that there's enough delivery of water because it's a constitutional right. At the same time, systems are being maintained and all of that. What needs to change in terms of the structure that we also see at municipal level as well as at national government level?
Well, firstly, I'd like to move on from the conversation that water is a constitutional right because we get bogged down then in a whole lot of issues. And I think, yes, it is a constitutional right. That's undisputed. But water is more than that because it's actually the foundation of the national economy. We can't create jobs unless we have water security. It's simple as that. We can't have national food security unless we have water security. So it's really a national security issue in an overarching sense. Now we can home in on the municipalities, and typically what the municipalities will do is they shrug their shoulders and they say that the system's broken and that they need there's not enough money for operations and maintenance. Well, that is simply not good enough because the operations and maintenance is an ongoing factor and it's been driven by professional people. And if you don't have professional people in the system that drive the ongoing operations and maintenance, then of course you must ultimately expect that these systems are going to collapse. And let's just look no further than the unaccounted for water in a system. Typically, anything from 40 to 60% of the water going into any city system in South Africa is lost and unaccounted for. And what that means is it's not billed. And what that means is that no revenue comes from it. Therefore, the municipality has to pay the bulk supplier, but they are unable to recover the money from the end user. So we get into this whole problem of the billing crisis and the administrative capacity of municipalities, because at the very heart of this all is the allocation of resources, which includes money, but also technical resources to solving these complex problems. And now, if the money management is not right, then of course everything is going to fall down by the wayside.
And tomorrow, the finance minister will table his budget speech, of course, and as part of the people who will be watching this keenly will be investors. Now, when investors look at an area like Nelson Mandela Bay, for example, it cannot be providing water. There's now this conversation that we're having around some of the competencies and lack thereof when it comes to the maintenance of the systems. This is certainly going to have a ripple effect because no investor will want to invest in this particular, municipality, especially where they're not guaranteed basic services, because we saw it happen even in some of these other provinces.
You hit the nail right on the head there. Absolutely. It's all ultimately about the capacity to create jobs in the economy. And part of that is the capacity to attract investors, whether they're local investors, whether they're foreign investors, whether you're yellow, pink, blue or green, it doesn't make a difference. If you're going to put money into the economy, you've got to have security of energy, security of water, you've got to have all sorts of security. You've got to make sure that your property isn't expropriated without compensation. All of these things are part and parcel of the security paradigm. So you must remember that the Nelson Mandela Bay area and the Uitenhage area is a very important industrial area in the country because it exports high-value motor cars out of South Africa. So it is effectively a converter of a unit of water into a unit of economic value, which is sold out for hard currency that comes into the country. So it's part of the balance of payments overall equation in South Africa. So it's of great strategic importance beyond the bread and butter issues of just being able to pull poor people out of the poverty trap and put food on the table on a day-to-day basis.
All right, Prof, thank you so much for those insights. We do appreciate them. That was Professor Anthony Turton, an affiliated professor in the Centre for Environmental Management in the Free State University.